Hello, everyone, and welcome to your horoscope for the week of November the 6th till 12th, 2023. We have quite an interesting sky at play, and the reason why I'm saying this is because we might be feeling like stuck in a very, very narrow birth canal where we might not really know what's going on, as in the process of birth is starting, and we have no idea what's on the other side, after being born. All of that is in a shroud of mystery, but this is where we cannot really sit back and wait patiently because certain elements in our lives, individually, and of course the collective expression, is stressing us. It is giving us a certain infusion of anxiety. Our inner beings are preparing us for some changes that are about to come, yet still they're not here yet, and we have no idea. We cannot even anticipate how certain things are going to play out. And this is because we're still under the influence of the two eclipses that we had just recently. 14th of October, annular solar eclipse in Libra. 28th of October, partial lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus. Those two are very powerful fated energies, and they are transforming at least one area of our lives forever in the way that life is not going to be the same again. But their expression is just setting up certain things in our lives. And we are feeling this setup because the setup is stagnating the energies. It is freezing them in place while being under construction. Now, this week, we're not totally out of the stagnation yet. Chances are it's going to be either 13th or 14th of November with a really powerful and explosive new moon in Scorpio that will shift the energy. But there are going to be movement and preparation this week as well, because not only do we have some very important and powerful energy shifts where Mercury changes signs, Venus changes signs, and as I said, Saturn, well, it's not moving yet, but it's preparing to, make a step forward, so to speak. It's not totally standing still. That's already really, really good news. And at the same time, the Sun and Mars are going to be meeting, really powerful fixed stars that can add to certain situations. So basically, this week is where we are feeling that we are going through a very narrow and uncomfortable and totally dark birth canal where we don't even have a clue what to expect on the other side. So, we must be really, really patient with ourselves and work with what we have, because we will have things that offer us solutions, that promises forward movement, and there might be some small breakthroughs this week in our lives as well. Now, with this being said, let me show you the screen and let's go together uh, the aspects that we have all of the week. So we can see the 6th of November here, where the sun is getting close to Mars. This is where the sun and Mars conjunction is starting. It is not going to be exact yet, but they are going to hang out in the sky very, very close to one another. Sun picking up speed, waiting for him to join Mars. And afterwards, it is the sun who's going to overcome Mars and be quicker. But not this week yet. This week, their conjunction is not going to be exact yet, but they are very close to each other. So this is where both of these planets are combusting elements. The sun with the heat of the sun, and Mars, fire, action, the war principle. So, this is really, really gonna start the purge. The purge which we can expect after the Scorpio new moon on the 13th or 14th of November, but this is already starting it. It is aggravating certain expressions of depending on where these degrees fall in your personal chart. So the sun and Mars together are really gonna, turn on the heat for us in at least one area of life. And on the collectively speaking on the world stage, it is very obvious what is going on and how. But a really positive energy here is that Mercury holds a trine with Neptune. So the power of the words, the transformational, the healing, and persuasive, convincing power of the words. Not only is this Mercury holding a trine to Neptune, but it is also sextiling Pluto. The sextile is not very powerful or active on the 6th, but as we advance, it is going to get stronger and stronger. And Mercury also holds a sextile with Venus. Venus in the sign of Virgo, so very practical. This is a really good energy because this is where we get somewhere. At least we figure things out, either solo or we, for example, we heal people with our words. We convince someone, a boss to, for example, give us a promotion, an employer to employ us. We receive help. We can get, for example, like medical analysis, because Scorpio is one of those signs which has to do with the medical industry. Mercury investigations. So we get a diagnosis, we get results of a test. We know where we stand at least, because these aspects are really good for clarifying where our situation is and how it is and what we can do with it and what we cannot do. But it's a trine and sextile, so especially what we can do. So unfortunately, even though this is a really positive energy, it can also empower people who are deceptive, who wish to con us. The bad kind of convincing. Why am I saying this? Venus opposes Neptune. So that can play out in that way as well, where we might see something that is too good to be true, but it really stirs up our desires and we fall for it. So this is where, if something is good to be true, be aware. Don't allow yourself to be deceived. Don't allow yourself to be conned. If the email looks suspicious, if the text message has certain links, so be aware of this. Don't allow yourself to be conned. But on the other hand, the other way this energy can play out is quite nice because Venus holds a trine to Pluto, the power of attraction. And in this case, the Venus opposing Neptune can represent a dream, a desire, etc., which all of a sudden manifests. Now, one of the ways this energy can play out, your physical beauty, Venus in Virgo, your physical expression is very attractive and it attracts someone rich and powerful, influential, that Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. Or you get the job, you get the contract, you get the business, you get the project, and Venus opposing Neptune, this is also, of course, the trine to Pluto also matters, where nepotism or good putting in a good word for someone can go a very long way. Now, this may create a certain injustice, but it is what it is. But it can play out the other way around, where someone who has power, knowledge, mastery, is in a high position, has a lot of money, Pluto, trine Venus, attracts who they need in their lives. So maybe it is someone's power which is very attractive to you, and the connection is formed that way. But on the other hand, Mercury sextile to Pluto and Mercury sextile to Venus is also very important in this equation, because words, persuasion, how we present ourselves, how we present our situation, can be really, really good. This complex aspect is also really good, as I said, for job interviews, to advance within your job, to find solutions to problems, to a project, to find highly specialized individuals, professionals. This energy is also really, really good to replace something or to replace someone. Something is broken or something is not working anymore. This energy can make you search and find exactly what the right replacement is. May it be an equipment, may it be a contract, may it be a person, may it be basically anything. This is really, really good for all of those things. Just keep in mind that we have to make sure not to fall for illusions or delusions or the malevolence of other people, because that is also part of this energy. So we must make sure not to delude ourselves. Now, oh, before I don't forget, Mars, especially at the beginning of the week, holds a quincunx to Chiron. Where are you? Here it is. So this is where, even if we have the best intention, sometimes intervening for another person, or sometimes a gesture of goodwill can cause wounding, and there's nothing we can do about it. This doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. This just means that there are certain moments in life where anything that we do, it still results in a wounding. Like, let me give you an example. There was some humanitarian aid allowed. I don't want to say, then I don't want to name the city, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. And turns out that the products were expired, goodwill, but it still caused wounding and outrage. So you know what I mean? It is like that type of energy playing out. And I think we have to move to the 7th now. This is the 7th. And on the 7th, we can see the perfection of the Venus and Pluto trine. So again, a very, very powerful and positive aspect where our attractions can manifest in one way or another, let's say. And this is also where Mercury's and Pluto's sextile is getting stronger. It is getting exact. But on the 8th, because we have to move on. Oh, before I don't forget, on the 7th still, the sun is conjunct a fixed star, which is called the south scale of the serpent. So, of course, this is the constellation of the serpent, that which in sidereal astrology is the 13th zodiac sign. But that's a totally different universe and dimension altogether. I'm practicing Western astrology, so I only have 12 signs. But anyway, that fixed star, well, amongst so very many things that it can represent, heavy things, because the serpent, wisdom, power, a political influence, etc., etc., but it can go the right way or the wrong way, and we can see the wrong way. All we need to do is just look at what's happening in the collective, and we can see the wrong. But amongst so very many things, that fixed star can also represent freeing of captives, freeing of hostages. And the sun is the light of our consciousness. So I'm really, really, really hoping that that's how it will play out. So moving on the 8th, here we are. We can see Venus finally changing signs. Here we are. She entered into the sign of Libra, a part of the sky which she rules, a part of the sky where she is able to bring forward her highest qualities. Now, Venus in Libra is really good news for all of us, because this is where she represents justice, equity, compassion, the beauty of words, the beauty of thought, the beauty of love, basically, where love is not really Taurian, because Venus also rules the sign of Taurus. According to Socrates, Venus in Libra is the celestial Aphrodite, where she can truly embrace the idealism of it. Venus in Taurus is the earthly Aphrodite, where, physical things, it has to be embodied, it has to delight of our five senses. So in Libra, she is very much unbound. She is able to truly demand, diplomatic negotiations, equity, justice, compassion for the other, fairness, equality. One is equal to the other, and any kind of dialogue resolution has to, serve both sides. So this is really, really good news in that sense, because you kind of know where I'm pointing with this. Yet at the moment, on the 8th, when she enters this part of the sky, she might not be able to do exactly that, her mission, because she holds a quincunx with Saturn. Saturn 0 degrees at Pisces, and Saturn is already direct. It is more or less still standing still, because it's not moving forward all that much, only a few minutes. But Saturn may limit Venus. All of Venus's efforts, when this quincunx is operational, might be more or less in vain, or it might be stopped. Yet, generally speaking, after this quincunx breaks, she breaks free from the quincunx, it is really, really good news, because that is how we really, really need Venus to work. And in her transit in the sign of Libra, there will come a moment, so I do believe later on in November, when she will meet the South Node in Libra, and that will be really, really important on one hand, because she will meet the eclipse point, 21 degrees, I do believe, in the sign of Libra, where she will reactivate it. There will be an expression of that, and then she will move forward to meet the South Node. So a very, very powerful release for the sake of justice. And this is where Mercury sextile with Pluto is exact. Not yet on my screen, but it will become exact. So again, the power of the words. We need to speak our truth. Collectively speaking, I'm not even gonna analyze this, because Mercury is on overtime collectively. The media, the news reports, etc., etc., etc. And not so long ago, so if you rolling back a few days, Mercury was conjunct the same fixed stars that the Sun and Mars are going to be conjunct this week, and we could see that play out. That reporters and people of the media, people of the news, were not spared. Basically, they were targeted, in a non-discriminate way. So again, this highlights the strength of Mars and Scorpio, especially when it activates those fixed stars which do promote war and very strong and aggressive politics. And at the same time, this week is going to be very, very challenging in a way, because all the positive Neptune aspects, Neptune trines Mercury, then it will trine this Mars, then ultimately it will, not this week, but it will trine the Sun. That's really the power of the spirit. What happens with our alchemy, inspiration, magic, the power of faith and belief, the transformational power, absolutely the positive. But we also have a semi-square, a half square between Venus and Jupiter. Jupiter in the sign of Taurus. So that's not a very easy energy, because what if all that faith, all that power, all the strength of emotion that we put into the change is not going to manifest very well? Because Jupiter in Taurus, the semi-square, it's not time yet. Or gradually, little by little, one step at a time. Jupiter doesn't like that. But in the sign of Taurus, and it's also retrograde. So Jupiter right now is not very permissive of all the big things, you know, but still the power of alchemy is there. It might be delayed, so that's why don't lose hope. Don't dwell into like delusion. Don't fool yourself, but neither lose hope. Keep a very healthy faith. And that is the key to using this Mercury Neptune trine, Mars Neptune trine, and of course the long lasting Pluto Neptune sextile and the Neptune Uranus sextile, which is still just barely, but it's still operational. So let's move on to the ninth. The ninth, here we can see that the moon is conjunct Venus. This is a really, really good energy because the moon, the soul, our emotions, the collective emotion even, really, really wants the negotiation, the peace, the harmony, the one-on-one balance, the justice, the equilibrium. So we are really, really going to put our emotions into it. Moving on to the 10th. Now on the 10th, we have Mercury. Yeah, we can see it on the screen. Mercury leaving the sign of Scorpio and entering Sagittarius. Now, Mercury is not able to bring out its highest qualities in Sagittarius because it can overcomplicate itself. No, in the sign of Gemini, the sign which it rules, Mercury represents the freedom of information, the flow of information, communication, sharing communication freely. In the sign of Sagittarius, it's not able to do that as freely because Sagittarius represents specialized knowledge, specialized information. In order for Mercury to share that, it has to go into the highest realms of knowledge, into the academic world, and it cannot do that very comfortably. But leaving the philosophy of the signs and planets aside, this is where it's very, very quick, instantaneous, spontaneous energy. And as we all know, sometimes quick words, quick action, quick choices, radical expression is not all that favorable. But on the other hand, with anything that has to do with justice, court papers, official communication, international travel, etc., it can be a favorable energy. Yes, and also on this 10th is when we can see that the Sun and Mars are quite close to each other. And also on this day, Mars is conjunct a fixed star, which is also part of the Serpent constellation, which has to do with success in war. Now, what this means exactly, we'll find out, because success in war can represent destruction, oppression, and elimination of the opponent, but it can also represent peace. It can also represent how should I say, a resolution. It can also represent an agreement. We'll see what will happen at this moment. And of course, Mars, let me just move it. On the 11th. This is really a symbolic date where Mars is still conjunct the fixed star. The North scale of the serpent translated to a language that I personally can pronounce, and it's very, very close to the sun. So this is already like an ongoing conjunction of this Mars and the sun. Again, the element of combustion, very, very, very combust. So individually speaking, in our individual lives, this can be a very strong day. It can be a very explosive energy. Again, they are opposing Uranus. Secrets come out. the unexpected happens. There is an unexpected turnaround of events that changes everything. Uranus himself is also conjunct a fixed star in Taurus, which is responsible to sudden changes, very, very quick changes, evolutions, the power of technology, the power of science, the power of knowledge. Uranus likes all of those things. And so it opposes Mars and the Sun. So you can imagine, expect the unexpected. And everything that you might anticipate, that you might think, well, this is the way it's going to play out, that is the way it's going to play out. Well, chances are it's not. And regardless of how your situation is, this Mars opposing Uranus can turn it around. Now, collectively speaking, especially that this is just setting up the new moon on the 13th or 14th, this is where there can be very, very powerful earth events, earthquakes, sea quakes, very violent storms, hurricanes. There, as in very intense and chaotic and disruptive manifestations of the weather or the elements or earth events. Now, needless to say that it is all that I say physically is very, very possible politically, economically, and socially speaking. But those energies are different expressions. This is where there can be calamity. And unfortunately, it is a heightened possibility. So if you live in an area where you know there's a constant danger of hurricanes and earthquakes and all of that, be sure to take precautions or to buy yourself an extra bottle of water and cans of food and stuff like that, because Ceres, so grain and food and nurture, is also in the sign of Scorpio. Let me show Ceres to you. At 24 degrees of Scorpio, so sextiling Pluto, precautions and the wise thing to do will pay off handsomely. And Ceres herself is also still opposing Uranus. So besides the obvious humanitarian and food crisis and the basic need crisis, this can also play out as some kind of toxicity that poisons food reserves, or toxicity at sea, toxicity in water. Scorpio is fixed water. So, and technological accidents, which can cause some ecological disaster. Whenever Mars opposes Uranus, there can always be a danger of technology going haywire and producing some accidents. Let me give you a very simple example. 2019 November, Mars was opposing Uranus in the same, different degrees, but the same signs. Wuhan, you know, technology, the laboratory, and the virus. Scorpio, virus, biomatter or whatever, Uranus technology. And we saw that play out on the world stage. Now, I'm not saying it will play out the same way, but there is a danger for technology to go in unexpected ways and to cause problems. You know what I mean? Now, individually speaking, this can lead to contradictory discussions. This can lead to fights. This can lead to, scandal, because Uranus opposing Mars and the Sun in Scorpio. Secrets are being dished out, and how we react to secrets. Now, of course, there is a side where this energy can be extraordinarily violent. It can be angry, resentful, vengeful. It can be pure hatred. But I don't even need to mention that it is of the utmost importance, almost as if our lives depend on it, for us not to react that way, for us not to give into the violence, the strong and angry impulses. Now, the sign of Scorpio also rules our lower self, what Freud called the id. It rules the inner animal, which can be triggered, angry. It can have certain primal reactions. Now, that is very understandable, but we must make sure not to choose that or control it as much as we can. Why? Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius. Let's not judge things and situations way too quickly until we know the full detail, and let's not speak angry words instantly. First, let's think and cool down and analyze the situation. And with this Neptune Mars trine, by now it is beginning, because Mars is at 20 degrees, Neptune at 25 degrees, so the trine is starting to build up momentum. Let's look at ourselves from the divine's perspective. Let's look at our situations from heaven's eyes. We must take a step back and look at why things are happening in our lives. Like, for example, I use the same example in my horoscope for the new moon in the sign of Scorpio. Check that video out if you're guided. So I'm going to use it again. You find out that your husband committed infidelity. And, you can rage, immediate divorce, punish the husband, etc., etc. If you step back and really, really look at the totality of the situation, especially from a spiritual perspective. Why did this happen to me? Well, Saturn in the sign, Saturn is also in Pisces. The past can come back to you. Maybe you had, and I'm going to say it from a spiritual slang, let's say, but understand what I'm really saying, because I don't want to. Your root chakra was blocked for a lot of years and you couldn't give the husband what he deserved. You thought you were giving, it was hard for you, but understand the situation. So, of course, the husband did what Scorpio would usually do. Go and take care of his needs. So judge the situation from a different perspective. Or the same thing happens. Judge the situations that maybe if the husband is providing for you, Scorpio is financial access. Maybe your pride, wounded pride, is not worth it to destabilize your financial situation. And you know what I mean? Look at the situation from a higher perspective before you take any action. Whatever the disruption or whatever the surprise element of Uranus may be, don't react if it's possible immediately. Take a step back and think about it. Don't quit the job. Don't put in the divorce yet. Be sure of yourself that it's the right thing to do before you do anything. And as I said, Mars is conjunct that fixed star, the North scale of the serpent. So there is going to be a lot of intensity and a lot of toxicity even. But the serpent also represents wisdom, know-how, practicality. So that is also part of the situation. And on the 11th, as you can see, the moon is conjunct the south node, meaning it's opposing the north node and Aries. So something is triggering us. Something in our lives screams that it needs to be released. It needs to be made part of the past. And the big closures are coming. Saturn at that 0 degree of Pisces, starting to move direct, starting to move forward, big closures, big finalities, but 0 degrees. That 0 also represents that new beginnings are also knocking at our door. And this is Pisces. So this is the state, the feeling, the mood of all. This is like psychological and spiritual. So we cannot expect like a practical thing. We can the way to look at this is for the long term. What is beginning within me? Am I transforming into someone new? Or any kind of finality, closure, ending also needs a beginning. How do I feel about it? Into what kind of person, to who has the finality, the closure, the ending transform me into? And needless to say, at the very end of Saturn transit in Pisces around 2026 or something like that, it will hold a conjunction to Neptune. That is where Neptune and Saturn will meet, not in Pisces, but at 0, if something like 0 degrees of Aries. So whatever we are closing, whatever is coming to, end to end, is going to be very, very important, because it will be the basis of a very powerful new beginning. The first breath, 0 degrees of Aries, is always the first breath, and that's where Neptune and Saturn are going to meet. So whatever karma, faith, or the divine is doing in our lives right now, no matter how hard and painstakingly slow it is, we might be feeling trapped, almost like in a prison or in a psycho ward, because Pisces actually rules both of those physical institutions. Even if life and the spirituality right now may feel like that, we must endure, we must hold out, because it is definitely leading to somewhere, a big, big new beginning around 2020, end of 2025, 2026, beginning of 2026, when this Saturn and Neptune are going to meet. They are going to form their conjunction, beginning a massive new cycle. So yes, so moving on to the 12th to finish the horoscope. This is where you can see Mars opposing Uranus. So again, a very explosive energy. Actually, not just Mars, but also the Sun. And the Moon already moved into Scorpio, preparing to, on the next day or on the 14th, depending where you are on the planet, to hold the new moon phenomenon, where the new moon will also oppose Uranus. And this is where Mars is already starting to try Neptune. So again, everything that I said is starting to be set up, and for us to break free from the stagnation effect of the eclipses and to get into a new phase, new adventure, momentum, progress, even if all of that is highly uncomfortable, and it will need a lot of inner work, a lot of inner Saturn in Pisces. It will really, really, it will feel like as we are the clerics, priests, priestesses, so the spiritual leaders of our own lives. If we need advice, it is the inner priest or priestess that we have to consult first of all. So this is where we really, really have to be there for ourselves. As I said, our own priests or priestesses, our own psychologists, our own parents, our own caretakers. So it's not an easy energy, but we need to strengthen ourselves and pull through, because as we slowly and surely start moving, as I said, it is definitely going to reward us. And as you can see, Mercury and Venus both of them change signs, and they're still holding the same sextile, but in a different energy, different configuration. Libra and Sagittarius, again, the beauty of words, trying hardest to negotiate, trying hard. And these two signs are the signs of justice, are the signs of the law, are the signs of, legal, I don't want to necessarily say legal action, but legal effects, everything that goes on in the legal world. So this to me is a really, really good energy, because things can take. Remember when Venus first entered Libra and she held the quincunx with Saturn? if she harvested the wisdom from the quincunx, where her limitations are, where she can have no effect, no power, then she chose alternatives, and those alternatives can be working right now. So for the collective situation, this can be really, really good news. But as I said, with Mars opposing Uranus, calamity, disaster. So we have to see how it plays out, physically speaking, within nature, but also politically and with the war. So and yeah, I already said that as the moon enters Scorpio, it will oppose Jupiter. So again, something will trigger us, something will trigger our feelings very, very deeply. And we'll just have to wait and see how it is. But as a general guidance for next week, we must, as I said, be aware that we are in the very narrow and dark and super uncomfortable birth canal. And we have to trust that there is the light at the end of the tunnel. We are going to be born, or I'm so sorry to use this horrible set of words, but pushed out one way or another. So we will be born. We have to trust that. And whatever irritates us, whatever angers us, whatever triggers us, we need to step back, look at it from a higher perspective, and then react, then respond. We really, really have to apply self-discipline this week because it will be very important. But on the positive note, the Neptune trines and the sextiles are gonna help us with what we need, basically. If we need some help with work, job, project, it might be on a small scale, but help and practicality is also there. So we must not lose hope, and we must not get into the horrible spiritual blockage of the Jupiter and Neptune semi-square. So thank you everyone for listening. I really hope that you enjoyed it and you found it useful. If you like to support me, then please donate on the PayPal link in the description below. My channel cannot survive all that much longer without your help. So until next time, bye for now. Oh, and if you are guided, check out, there is a new moon video with the new moon in the sign of Scorpio, and that has some very relevant predictions there. So thank you again. Until next time, bye for now.